conflicts have been creating a lot of challenges, and these challenges are impacting even the global supply chains, global economy, global relations, new world being formed. So among all this happening, I was under the impression somebody will diffuse situation globally, bring it a little lighter, and then all of a sudden we find Pakistan and Iran also decided to add fuel to the fire rather than globally be calming down a little bit. So what's the reason? What's the timeline? What made them cross this threshold now? We know the relations have not been fantastic in them, but how it happened now? What's the final push which made them cross the threshold of safety and peace?
You see, I think I may be so bold as to suggest that 224 would be the year of conflicts, a new kind of sort of approach to geopolitics, where countries are resorting to the use of force to settle old, long-standing rivalries and arguments. Now, let's look at the case of Iran and Pakistan. Iran is now riding a high horse because it's been supporting Hamas, which is giving Israel a tough time. It's supporting the Houthis, which has put the entire shipping world in a bit of a tizzy. And it is now looking at the possibility of putting Pakistan in its own place. Now, what is the issue with Pakistan? You see, Iran has probably got emboldened because it believes that beyond the point the world cannot use muscle to discipline it. They've tried it for years and years, but Iran continues to do what it wants to do. I'm not one of those who likes to put Iran in the bad boys camp immediately. Pakistan is no saint with gloves. And the fact of the matter is that Iran and Pakistan have a long-standing rivalry. Maybe Pakistan has been goaded by some of its friends in the West to try and put Iran in a bit of a tight spot because there is only that much the West and America can do against Iran. And America and its friends have not been able to put an end to either Israel's harsh response to events in Gaza or to the challenges that the Houthis present to the shipping world. So how do you get Pakistan involved? See, Pakistan likes to see itself as a leader, at least of the Sunni world. Iran is the undisputed leader of the Shia world. As you look at the demographics, the Shias and Sunnis are more or less about the same size globally. In Iran, they are in very large numbers, but overall. Second thing is that Pakistan and Iran have long-standing rivalries. And Pakistan has been needling Iran whenever the opportunity arose by using groups like Jandula and others to do small attacks on Iran and try and sort of, as in the military, we would say, probing attacks to see how Iran would respond. The second thing is that as far as Iran is concerned, Iran has been under sanctions for so long, they've come to live with it. So they are not going to back off just because you announce a new set of sanctions. The issue is about Balochistan. Balochistan for long, it's the largest landmass within Pakistan, and for long has been on the eye of the Pakistani establishment because it's very resource rich. It's a thinly populated desert area. And Pakistan's deep state has been exploiting Balochistan. And that's the point of grievance of the Baluchis with Islamabad, Rawalpindi. Iran has a border also with Balochistan. And these groups that Iran has decided to hit, they operate out of Balochistan. Now, for Pakistan to say that Iran is sponsoring terror, the bigger question is, where are the terror groups operating out of? They're operating out of Pakistan's territory. And Pakistan is known to do that, whether in the case of the POK in Kashmir or in the case of Balochistan. This group, which has been targeted by Iran, Pakistan may turn around and say that Pakistani territory has been hit by Iranian missiles. Fair enough. But the question is Pakistan willing to escalate things to a much higher level and take the conflict to the next level? See, the entire arc, starting from Israel up to Pakistan, is now a troubled arc from Israel, Palestine, Syria, the Kurdish area, the Iraqis, Pakistan, Afghanistan, everywhere it's on the boil. So this is where countries with massive resources like America should try and intervene to calm down temperatures instead of escalating it. Because if it does escalate, and if Iran feels it's being cornered, what stops it from blocking the Straits of Hormuz? If it does that, there will be a massive spiral in oil prices world over and obviously affect the economy. So every $10 hike in the mean price of oil, which is normally expected to trade at $80, $90. So every $10 would impact on the GDP of countries by up to 1 to 2.5 to 3%. And the third thing is that shipping companies are not willing to take a chance anyway. Tensions have already got them to start taking the long route, which is many weeks longer to travel. And therefore, the cost of sending products, you talked about supply chain, the cost of the supply chain and sending products obviously goes up much more. And finally, there is the issue of, can the UN do something? I think the UN is a defunct body. It needs to be recreated. And the Ukraine conflict has shown, Israel-Palestine conflict has shown that the UN has no teeth. And countries that were expected to guarantee world peace, they are using the UN cover to get on with what they believe is their agenda. Like China, for example. China wants to be an important player, but doesn't want to be a peacemaker. And as far as Russia is concerned, Russia has relations with China, and has good relations with Iran also. And then comes in a country like India. Now, just the visit by Indian foreign minister to these various countries is not good enough. Is India willing to put its money where its mouth is? Because if India is not willing to do that, then what's the point of diplomatic visits by the foreign minister? So I think India could play a bigger role. India could play a more influential role in kind of browbeating the pirates and merchant shipping terror groups in the Arabian Sea area. And India has the naval ability. China has a much bigger navy. But still in the Arabian Sea and the Straits of Malacca, Indian Navy crowd is quite effective. And finally, what are India's interests in Iran vis-a-vis Pakistan? Pakistan's a no-go area for us. That's been already clarified to us many times over. Iran will give us access to more oil and stability in the Arabian Sea and the Gulf region will also allow the oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia and others to have more stable access to India's oil import-centric market. So these are the points that immediately come to mind. But the bigger question is, will it explode into something bigger? I don't think for the time being. Nobody is in the mood for a bigger war. And wars are expensive, whichever way you look at it. Only the Americans think a good war is good for their economy. Others don't look at it this way. So, like they are, after 2.5 years, looking impotent in Ukraine, like they are providing so many weapon platforms to Israel, but Israel has not been able to change the course of event as rapidly as was expected. And like they are looking for partners and friends to influence countries, anybody who's actually challenging the American narrative is supporting terrorism. That's ridiculous. You know, terrorism is when you terrorize populace. So does America not terrorize people with its bombing missions like it recently did with airstrikes in Yemen? I mean, Yemen is the poorest country in the world, and just bombing the hell out of them is not going to stop the Houthis from doing what they are doing because they have realized that the accuracy of air power can only do that much. At the end of the day, you have to put boots on the ground or boots on the sea to be able to discipline the pirates who
Right.
harass merchant shipping. So these are the various issues that are doing the rounds in people's minds. And India-Pakistan conflict is unlikely, though India has stood up for Iran and said that Iran has done the right thing. And Pakistan, some people say, well, Pakistan can't react because they don't have a proper government in place. Even if they have a civilian government, it's the military that calls the shots. And it's not going anywhere. The military is there. Whether it was Imran yesterday and then Sharif today, and tomorrow maybe somebody else. Pakistan remains a basket case, and Pakistan's trying to use this strategic opportunity to reposition itself as a go-to player in the eastern edge of West Asia. So West, the conflict zone is from Pakistan to Israel. And the Saudis are waiting and watching because for long they have humored and built up Pakistan and its military and its nuclear arsenal. But now the Saudis are very cleanly aligned to India because that's where the markets will be for Saudi products. So that aspect is also there. So there are various things that are playing on people's minds. I can answer questions. I'll just give a broad outline that this inverted arc of trouble from Israel right up to Pakistan. And they're all looking for also a foothold in Afghanistan because Afghanistan is sought after by Iran because of various Shia groups there being harassed by the Taliban.
Yes.
Afghanistan is also something that the Chinese have been eyeing because of the mineral resources there. Afghanistan is also something that Pakistan has invested a lot of capital over the years to build up the Taliban only to be booed out by the Taliban. So therefore, there are various axes to be grinding there. How this will pan out, we'll have to wait and watch. But for people to say now it'll next spill over into India, I don't think so, because India doesn't encourage or accommodate all these groups that operate. And the Jandula that Pakistan says is a terror group, Pakistan had used the Jandula to kidnap Captain Kulbhushan, who they're holding as hostage against us to show that this is a sign that we sponsor terror. They used the Jandula to go and pick him up from Iranian territory because he was working on a merchant shipping contract there, naval officer. So today, those guys see a person who's resorted to terrorism and the use of terror and means like that cannot abandon those ways very easily.
Understood, sir. That's brilliantly put up. I think that's a great prelude. And as you always are, very, very blunt with your comments, it's good to hear that. At the same time, if you look at the arc which you mentioned, started from Israel till Pakistan, and I will say thanks to the Indian armed forces that they have stopped the arc there. Otherwise, we could have been also engulfed in it. So thanks for the service. But at the same time, if I look at the old time, the World War mentality, what happened is the World War mentality ended up putting the complete world into more like bipolar. So they said, here is one and here is a second, and you're part of one. So that that particular group takes care of you, whether it formed in the shape of NATO or anything else. Although in between there was also non-aligned movement, but even those non-aligned people were aligned somewhere or the other in spite of being part of the non-aligned movement,
including
including
India.
India. So now when we look at the situation, uh, people thought maybe Russia going down, okay, China's come up, will again be bipolar. But what it looks like, it's already a multipolar situation. And at the same time, initially, if you're friend with one, there was no chance you friend with others. Considering now what's happening, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Syria, now Iran, Pakistan, it looks like you can even choose that how you will be reacting to Ukraine, but you may react different to Iran, although you may be friends with both. So considering this, is this going to change the world dynamics in any manner, or even I think all foreign ministers will be more confused than ever in the present situation, or will they have the liberty to say in this situation I choose this, on another situation? How this jamboree is going to play, and maybe how does India put its hand up that
Yeah,
what all are?
I think you've touched on a lot of important issues. But the first thing to understand is your national interest should guide your agenda. So if your national interest is that you need more energy and oil, you have to ensure that the lines bringing in energy and oil to India remain undisrupted. Second thing is you talked about multipolar, bipolar world. It's not a bipolar world anyway. It's a multipolar or multipolar world because everyone's kind of looking at engaging with somebody in public and behind the scenes with somebody else. Like look at the case of Pakistan and Iran. They engaged with each other in Davos, but behind the scenes, they are engaging with China, which is always the big elephant in the room and the troublemaker. At the same time, Russia, I am quite perplexed by Russia ability not to make any more gains in Ukraine than they made 2 years ago. And they have the second strongest military in the world. They have not followed the rules of engagement by avoiding damage to civilian infrastructure and people. They've just gone hammer and tongs. But they've not made any gains. Why they haven't made gains? Because the Ukrainian people have refused to be cowed down or surrender. And you can't defeat a people who are willing to die. So that's a thumb rule of battles today. And also the thing is that Russia has decided that America has its limits and Europe is anyway a bunch of uh, affluent, smooth talkers, but incapable of taking a tough stand. So whether it's Germany, whether it's Britain, they all look up to America at the end of the day to lead them. And America is confused. What is it that it can do next? So as I say, America has more think tanks than the British Army has tanks, but they still get everything wrong, because they start from a top-down analysis. They said, this is what we want, and this is how we should go about it, not from bottom up, keep eliminating the problem and get to the top with some kind of an answer. So that's where they get it wrong. And finally, uh, the arms bazaar. The arms bazaar is very lucrative for countries like America. So they're not going to let up on supplying to Ukraine because whether they get paid for it or not, America directly funds its own arms industry by announcing another 15 billion here and a 15 billion there for Ukraine. And their bombs, missiles, and aircrafts keep getting produced. But the issue is that is the well being of the people in anybody's mind? I would say, though I'm not such an open fan of Mr. Modi, but I would say that at least on these issues, Modi government is quite clear. The well-being of the Indian people is being looked at, and his government has, from time to time over the two tenures, seen the need to intervene in the interest wherever Indians are involved. Wherever you look at, evacuating students from Ukraine, uh, evacuating people from crisis areas like Yemen. We've got to also understand that we've got 8 million people in the Middle East who continue to send money, repatriate money home, and that is an amount close to $40 billion a year. So we can't stop that flow, which is a legitimate flow of funds coming into the Indian economy.
Right.
And Pakistan is actually has nothing to offer to its people or the world except trouble. So the problem is that how do you get Pakistan out of the narrative? I think we've done the smart thing by ignoring them.
Right.
And if you engage with them too much, you become party to crime. So Iran, I would never take it lightly, as we've seen every effort to uh, check Iran to the chessboard, a country that invented chess. They will outmaneuver everybody. And so it's a question of how much are going to allow the situation to slide into anarchy. And that anarchy in the Middle East could have implications for global oil prices, could have implications on human life, could involve the big powers. America will send its aircraft carriers, they're already in the bloody sea. So they've got to find some berthing area. So they'll just be directed, ki aap jao Middle East. Just like another aircraft carrier group keeps hovering around Taiwan. Because these are the areas that America has to show to its people that it still carries clout. So I feel that if this issue is not settled, China may use the unsettled environment to go for Taiwan. So there could be that possibility.
In fact, that's so relevant comment, sir, because if you really look around, although the United Nations, if I really see, like in India, we often talk about we have a law, and we often talk about the rich guys can play with the law. So what it looks like, if United Nations is law of the world, US can go to uh, a country without UN going in, Afghanistan included, a lot of others. Similarly, Russia can go in without UN getting involved. Nobody is able to stop. Nobody gets said, no, no, we have a law, we have a rule. Now, yes, more conflicts emerging, where Israel and this conflict has always been there. So worldwide, it's the same. UN is, as you said, already a defunct body. But worse than that is that it is not even playing a role anymore. And if all these big boys will work with their rules, why UN is needed at all kind of situation is so clear. So I've started getting questions. So maybe I'll take first question, which has come from Captain Tyagi. He's a thoughtful security leader in the country. He says, what is next step for Pakistan? Seeing what feeble and namesake response it undertook, it's a bluff was called after BrahMos fired mistakenly and now with Iran action. It's a air defense mechanism is in shambles. Well, I agree with him. I always feel that, uh, well, even if you look at US forces, whether consent or otherwise, I don't know till date, but they had to eliminate a terrorist, the biggest terrorist of the world. They went into Pakistan using choppers, finished the job, and fly it back as well. Even now, and even earlier, the air defense and otherwise. I mean, what's in for Pakistan? Isn't it a losing military, further losing the sheen, or is it going to be using this opportunity to resurrect themselves with some kind of credibility again?
Well, you see, the Pakistani establishment is very sensitive to how the military is seen by the world, not by how the Pakistani economy or the people or their politics is seen. So the military, I give two, three examples. When we did the Balakot strikes, they woke up a day later and they suddenly launched F-16s on the Indian LOC. Just to show that, we are capable of reacting. But they knew they could not cross the thin red line. Because if they do, then, I mean, India's retaliation and response would be very severe. The second thing is the Pakistani military, in this case, has to do a show of force to save their face. You remember when America was, during Obama's time, was using drones to extend its foreign policy. So the drones were being used to hit anything and everything. And an American drone did hit a Pakistani camp on the Waziristan area where 24 soldiers and officers were killed. And Pakistan made noises, etc. But I've read books, there's a very instructive book by Akbar Ahmed called The Thistle and the Drone, and in which Yusuf Raza Gilani, apparently off the record, told various Western observers and legislators that, see, we have to make noises. If we don't, then in our country, nobody will take us seriously. So, and that's, I think, the last straw for the Pakistani establishment, that they have projected themselves as the guardians of the space of Pakistan. So ये अभी जंदुला पे भी जो अटैक हुआ है ईरान का, they've gone and fired a few missiles. But who was there where the missiles landed? They may have landed in some bloody open desert plot, and say that Pakistan's fired the missiles. And Iran says 7 to 9 people have been killed, and those women and children. So they probably hit a village or something somewhere. The fact is that the Iranians have been skating to take revenge against America and its cronies. And Israel is sworn to elimination of Iran and the regime of the Ayatollahs. Not that Israel, it's been shown that Israel's ability to react militarily to situations like Russia's is overrated. So therefore, I believe that Pakistan will do what it can to tell its people that we've been attacked and we've counterattacked. But attack and counterattack per se, there are only two ways out. One is people try and de-escalate, one is people allow it to escalate. Now that is guesswork. Even I can't lay my fingers on. But I think the world is not going to allow escalation to unmanageable levels. Uh, this thing about Pakistan being a nuclear power, nuclear weapons are like the teeth of elephant. They're for deterrence. They're not for use. The moment you start arming your delivery systems with even tactical nuclear weapons, the Americans have enough satellite information to know that you're going to take that route, and they'll put a lot of pressure. Pakistan's desperate to get back in America's good books. And they know Iran is not going to be back ever, at least in the near future, till the Ayatollahs go away in America's good books. So here is their chance to try and dominate the strategic narrative in West Asia. So that's one of the reasons they're getting involved there, because they want to show that as an Islamic country with nuclear weapons, and they regard themselves as an Islamic power, they would like to control the flow of the narrative in Middle East, West Asia. So there's that aspect. And finally, the UN. I've always said the UN is the most overrated debating society in the world. And people who want the UN to keep going, including Indian diplomats, is because the benefits they enjoy from the UN. Every bloody diplomat who doesn't get a job after retirement Hardeep Puri being a case in point, go and takes up a UN assignment till the government calls him and gives him a cabinet post. So they are all looking for that. They think diplomacy is still about knowing your wines and wearing silk ties. But diplomacy is not about that anymore. You have to fold your sleeves and put your bloody elbows on the table and tell people कि आजा मैं अब देखते हैं तुम क्या कर सकते हो, right? So I think we have to become diplomacy is a farce for indecisiveness. You have to become aggressive and decisive, and the world should see you. We mess with these guys and they bloody hit us. And this is what I'm happy about taking on maritime operations in the Arabian Sea, Red Sea area. More and more, because this, I'm not saying we should try and dominate the Atlantic Ocean and all that. That's beyond our reach. But from the coastline of Gulf and Africa, right up to the Straits of Malacca, this is our strategic space. And we have to guard it with all our resources. So the Navy should stop wasting time and flying flags around the coastal area, but get on with producing more and more aggressive Marcos type units and put them where the bloody trouble area is. About time we did it, because 70 years the Navy has done damn all.
Got that, sir. Perfectly well pointed. There's another angle of the question which is covered next one. And it's a great point of view. I don't have the name of the person. Says uh, as of now, if you look at Iran, Russia, China, they already started trading of oil in ruble, and they have obviously certain close relationship. And China's dependency on Pakistan to get a lot of things done in the world, including the possible chip making north of Kashmir, which is being done. So, what about China? I mean, he's got both his friends fighting possibly. Which side they need to go? I think they are in a more difficult position than India right now.
Yeah, see, when you play with fire, you burn your hands. So China knows that. I think some bloody Sun Tzu proverb will have told them that. So if they can use their common sense and their history to understand that you cannot play with fire and dominate the narrative every which way. The second thing is, see, they are working very hard at creating chips through the water accumulated in the Aksai Chin POK area and using the sands of the Taklamakal desert to create silicon wafer, which in turn will create chips. Every 10,000 liters of fresh water mixed with some sands and chemical can give you a 30 centimeter square silicon wafer sheet, which then allows you to make microchips. And China is desperate to get into that game, but their ability to produce high-end semiconductors is still far, far behind Taiwan. That's one of the reasons they've been eyeing Taiwan. Some people have even suggested, why capture all of Taiwan? Just capture the islands outside Taiwan where the semiconductor factories are, and you will dominate the world narrative. So if China wants to do that, and by the Trump regime having put restrictions on export of semiconductor and related stuff to China, and in now America, it's become law that if you think of even talking to the Chinese, you'll be a national security threat. So the Chinese know they would have to produce semiconductors if they're going to go anywhere close to their goal of becoming a bigger power. They're already a big power, but bigger power, and probably get better of America. So there's that one aspect. The second aspect is, how does China use Pakistan? For three or four things. One is in the POK area to dominate all the dams. They put 26 to $30 billion worth money to make more and more dams in the POK area from the Indus systems. The Diamond Bhasha Dam, the Tarvela Dam, and there are two or three others. There are totally 5 dams they are working on. And those dams allow them to generate electricity, but still accumulate water to use them for making silicon wafers. The third thing is through Pakistan, they have that route worked out, the China-Pakistan economic corridor, and they made massive investments there. So Pakistan is now for China a valley, uh, China's uh, big sort of reliable sidekick. So through Pakistan, they can enter Afghanistan by extending CPEC into Afghanistan. Through Pakistan, they've anyway got a route right up to Gwadar. Gwadar they've taken over. And from there, they want to link up with the Gulf region for trade. Because the purpose of the Belt and Road Initiative, which is a $1.1 trillion project, was to create access for Chinese products into the world markets. What's the point of producing everything if your products can't reach the world markets? So that is what the BRI is meant to do. And China is looking at providing its people more and more funds because their economy, second year running, is not growing. So therefore, they need to have uh, investments and products coming in from the Gulf region, sending the products into Africa. So that's another thing China is working on. Pakistan is the toehold for Africa and Asia for China to launch their products in. And I think this is China's maybe a military power of consequence, but they're driven by an economic agenda. And finally, they need Pakistan to keep India unsettled. So it depends how much India is willing to react to Pakistan's nuisance factor, because that is what is going to give Pakistan a relevant role in China's eyes. So China would like to use Pakistan to keep India on the back foot, but I don't think that's going to be very successful for them for too long.
Right.
And
No, so sorry, there are multiple questions coming. Sorry, I'm interjecting. That's
yeah,
all.
yeah,
And
please,
just
please.
for the audience, I'll say we'll just take two more questions, and that's the time we have. So one question which has come up and find it interesting is come from Dilip Bade. It says, looking at the meek response by PAK back to Iran, uh, will it further uh, encourage Indian endeavors of similar nature? Because if you look at, I think whatever is happening with Iran now, but India already did respond to Pakistan's bad intentions or maybe the whatever camps they had and otherwise. But does that mean more encouragement for us? Do we pick it up that way and try out more things?
Well, in the long run, we should. I've been advocating that for long. The only thing is elections are around the corner, so people may not go for adventurism, which could spill over and become chaotic and take the focus away from the elections. I think the primary aim of the Modi government is to get a third term, which they will. They seem to be on a very smooth ride towards that because the opposition still is a bunch of noisy characters. They are not going to be able to give any new narrative. Uh, and what is it they have to show? Not much. The second thing is that I had argued in an essay of mine in which I had said that, see, if you go in for a conflict with Pakistan, see, because if you were to attack them more than an Iranian attack, any attack from India will energize Pakistan into putting all its resources and say, we're fighting for Pakistan's sovereignty and territory, and the guardians of Pakistan are the military, and good for them, let them go for it. But then India would respond. If India responds, it could be a mid-level conflict. Now, mid-level conflict also would require you to be prepared to spend at least $1 billion a day over a 30 to 40 day period. So that amount of money would be something that Pakistan doesn't have. It's crawling around for 1 or 2 or 3 billion here and there. But we can offer them, and this is an idea which people initially respond negatively to. but look at the merit of the idea. We can offer them that you give us the territories of POK where terror groups operate from, Muzaffarabad, Azad Kashmir, uh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and all those areas, and we'll pay you for it. So we pay a rent for getting the terrorists out of the area and keeping them at bay. कि तुम अपने पास रखो यार बंदों को. If you think you're going to create a kingdom of jihad, create it there. We don't want it. But you create a safety belt around the LOC, which gives us the cushion to focus more on development in J&K. And development is one way that you can kill people's terrorist aspirations. Because all insurgency, terrorism, etc., are based on narratives that, see, the government is doing nothing, put us there, we'll do something. So if you were to spend 30 billion or 40 billion in buying out territory from Pakistan, so Pakistan can then in turn have the money to regenerate its economy and have something to offer to its people. We buy peace with the amount we would have spent in fighting Pakistan, because that's a 1 month conflict, looking at 30 billion, right? For us, 30 billion is something we can afford. If you have foreign exchange reserves in excess of 700 billion, 30 billion is not a too high a price for peace. And thirdly, if that doesn't work out, we've done it in Balakot, we can do more. I have always argued from the mid-90s that all of POK is legally Indian territory. Pakistani says, "Kaise ho sakta sahab?" When I see, do you accept the creation of Pakistan? Yes. I said, with the same rules that Pakistan was created, Kashmir joined the Union of India. Rules of partition. So if it joined the Union of India, all territories belonging to erstwhile Maharaja's kingdom in Kashmir become kingdom of Jammu and Kashmir, that is basically to be owned by India. Now, if terror groups operate there, from there, like Israel does, anybody operating in the Israel's perimeter, Israel just goes and bombs the hell out of them. So you can go and bomb the hell out of those terror groups. And this is another peacenik argument that people have floated in the seminar circuits of Delhi. Oh my God, this is going to lead to war. Arey yaar, tum daroge to maroge. But the fact is that if you are very clear that you threaten my people, my territory, my sovereignty, my stability, I'm going to bloody hit you and hit you very hard.
Perfect,
So
sir. I think
this
you
is
should also
what
be
should be
part of the
our
elections
approach.
and part of the next government to make these decisions. We really need them. But just quickly, sir, one last question. It's from an anonymous person, so can name him. But the person says, is there a chance that Pakistan can make good relations with Iran and this can diffuse?
No, see, ideologically they're divided. Because see, Pakistan is largely Sunni dominant Pakistan, and Iran is Shia dominant. And there is as much of a divide between them as there is between the Catholic world and the Protestant world. So they cannot be on the same page, because Shias and Sunnis have historically had a rivalry. They need a massive mediation exercise to be able to all agree that yes, Pakistan and Iran can be one entity. I don't think that's going to be possible. I mean, Iran problem with Saudi Arabia for so long was also the Shia Sunni problem. And much of Middle East is divided between Shia blocks and Sunni blocks. So it's not going to be possible. And the Pakistani military, which basically controls the foreign policy narrative in Pakistan, is not going to take any approach which is passive. It's going to say they'll fight to death, etc. So it's good for generals to make these announcements, because the man who fights on the ground is a bloody Johnny. So the thing is that they will not accept anything else except where the generals can get money, champagne, and caviar. And this is what the Chinese give them through the China-Pakistan economic corridor. So that 54 billion has become 65 billion, but more will keep coming in because the Chinese know to buy out the Pakistanis is buy out the generals. I've always said there are three ways to discipline Pakistan. One is to ensure that the generals in Pakistan do not get green cards and their family members don't get green cards in America, do not get access to education, medical, healthcare, etc. in America. So you buy out the generals in Pakistan, half your regional problem is sorted. The problem is that America likes to sleep with them now. Every time something happens, they'll fly in, they'll spend 8 hours in Pakistan, of which 6 hours they'll spend in GHQ Rawalpindi and 2 hours having tea with Zardari and gang. That doesn't get you very far. You have to be able to tell them line mein khado jao. And in a fudgy way, you tell them, bloody hell, I will put you buggers under arrest if you don't get your act together. And immediately sab sahi ho jayenge.
Great, sir. Thanks so much for it. And I remember while not only while I was working with UN in Afghanistan after completing my army tenure, otherwise also whenever we will even meet or learn about the Pakistani officers, I think what we starkly remember is the kind of affluence they enjoy. So I think if they like it, give them that and make the decision positive for ourselves. Maybe is the easiest war to win in that case. But
There is
thank
an
you so much, sir.
interesting,
Any
there's an
last words you'd
interesting,
like to?
there's an interesting book by Aisha Siddiqa, who's also from King's College London, my alma mater. It's called Military INC, how the Pakistan Army runs what it calls milbus, military business. So they need the money. The all other countries have an army. Pakistan's army has a country to feed them. That's the difference. So
Thank you so much,
they
sir.
are going to juice the hell out of Pakistan till Pakistan goes completely dry. And the Americans are fools because they know that Pakistan has nuclear weapons. So, and the nuclear weapons, incidentally, there's a book by Iqbal Malhotra which has recently come out, The Bombs, the Mosques, the Mullahs, and the Military. And it explains in great detail have funded various routes to create the bomb in Pakistan. And Saudis are happily, Pakistan is the storage facility. So if things go out of hand, then they provide the bombs to Saudis to deal with the Iranians. Otherwise, Saudis keep washing their hands clean कि हमारे यहाँ तो कुछ है ही नहीं. आपके पास नहीं, लेकिन आपका साला GHQ रिजर्व्स तो सब कुछ लॉकर में पड़ा है पाकिस्तान के अंदर.
Truth. Thank you,
So
sir.
that's
Thank you
the
so much. Thanks for sparing time, and I'm very sure all the audience would have really got the gyan they wanted on this because this was becoming a very intriguing topic, and a lot of people reached out to say, "Can we have your views on it?" Thank you so much for finding time. Very
my
kind, sir.
pleasure. My
And
pleasure, Gary.
everybody else,
Always.
good weekend and good weekend ahead. Take care, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you, sir.